Wenn ihr mehr wissen wollt über die transzendentale Wissenschaft des Krishna-Bewusstseins, dann kann ich euch den Bhakti Club empfehlen. Wir haben nun eine neue Plattform, auf der ich exklusive Inhalte anbiete, wie Videos und Kurse und eine digitale Sadhu Sangha. Geht einfach auf www.bhakti-club.de und registriert euch dort. Dann könnt ihr Einlass bekommen in eine spirituelle, digitale Welt. Ich freue mich auf eure Gemeinschaft. Hare Krishna. He was adorned with a girdle that shone brightly on the yellow cloth, covering his large hips, and he wore a garland of fresh flowers, which was distinguished by humming bees. His lovely wrists were graced with bracelets, and he rested one of his hands on the shoulder of Garuda, his carrier, and twirled a lotus with another hand. Hare Krishna. The Bhagavatam is the book about Bhagavan. Bhagavatam means everything what is related to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, which is the highest feature of the absolute truth. In the end, there is a person behind everything, which is already quite astonishing, especially when we consider from our point of view, when we understand I'm also a person and I'm quite limited in my abilities, so how can there be an absolute person? But only because this fact is way over our understanding doesn't mean it necessarily must be not possible. It's just not possible for us. There was a lecture and Mataji asked Prabhupada, how is it that a king in Vedic times, or when we read, not Vedic times, Vedic times, but in former times, was described to rule the universe. Sometimes we hear in the Bhagavatam a king was ruling the whole universe, and she was wondering how can that be. And then Prabhupada said, yeah, there are so many things you cannot understand. Just because you cannot understand them doesn't mean that they are not possible. Yeah. So this is the Dr. Frog's, Prabhupada, Dr. Frog's mentality. What's not in his understanding is for him not possible. So this helps for us to get into things, to accept things which are written in the Bhagavatam. Just because I cannot understand them does not mean that they are not true. So the Bhagavatam is this book which brings to us close this personality, the absolute personality, who is the source of everything, which is behind everything. Brahma Puja Pratishta. Brahma Puja Pratishta, it said in the Taittiriya Upanishad, that the Brahman is the source of everything. Everything rests on the Brahman. All layers of existence are resting on the Brahman, which is Krishna. Who is Krishna? Krishna is the Brahman. And in Taittiriya Upanishad it said all the koshas, layers of existence, layers of consciousness, there are 5, pancha kosha, which are the different purposes of life, you could say. Yes, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manamaya, Vigyanmaya, and Anandamaya. So this is these are the different purposes of life. Annamaya means food, right? And food is very much celebrated in this Taittiriya Upanishad and in this discussion. Everything verily rests on food. Anna Pucham Pratishta. Everything rests on food. And you think, no, everything rests on food. But yes, food is the first thing it is needed to maintain the physical body. So, and then it says, but then there's something else. There's prana, which means life air, or this what makes the body alive. So this is the next level of understanding of our existence or purpose of life. First is food. My purpose of life is food. And this is certainly there for devotees also. What you can ask, what makes you happy in life? What is happiness? And we say, Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. Yeah, true, but not only. If you don't have anything to eat, it's very difficult. So Krishna conscious lifestyle actually there's everything inside, everything what is needed for the physical, for the psychological, and for the spiritual. And we should not forget that, because sometimes we, in my Bhakta course also, when we talk about the epistemological base of Krishna consciousness, so what are the different ways how to get on knowledge, right? We have pratyaksha, anumana, and shabda. And we explain to them how the three works, and then I ask them, so what does a devotee use? What is a devotee using? Pratyaksha, anumana, or shabda? Everyone knows these terms, right? So, sense perception, gathering knowledge to the senses, gathering knowledge to philosophical conclusions, to the mind, right? Anumana, that follows the mind, conclusions. Or shabda, meaning transcendental sound vibration, shastra. And when a devotee is not really, doesn't understand this, he says, shabda, of course, shabda. Everything else, what's the use of that? But of course, it's not true. We use all of three. Day-to-day life, if I just want to leave this room, I don't use shabda. Okay, before I do something, gathering knowledge for doing something, there's the Bhagavatam about leaving this room. I need my senses to do that. Not much, actually, more than that. So it depends where we need different ways to do something, we use it. But in regards to the absolute truth, this is a different question. A devotee uses all three of them, but in regards to the absolute truth, how do you understand the absolute truth? Where do you get knowledge about absolute truth? Certainly there is the information of the Shastra, Shabda, needed. Only needed. With our senses, with our mind, we could never figure out this information, what is given here, how the Lord looks, right? So, so in the Taittiriya Upanishad, I'm reading this right now because I'm preparing for a Madhurya Kadambini seminar, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the first thing he does before the Mangalacharan is he establishes Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the Taittiriya Upanishad, which I found interesting that he used that. Because, why that? Yeah, because there are many shlokas, or not shlokas, but phrases from Taittiriya Upanishad, which we very often hear in Prabhupada's books also, like Raso Vaisa, or Bahushyam, or then also the Panchakrosha, and things like this, Brahmaputra Pratishta. Many from them are from the Taittiriya Upanishad. And Taittiriya Upanishad has three chapters. Vali is called Vali. And the first is Shiksha Vali, which is more or less only about the base of teaching. Because Upanishads are like a talk between a teacher and a disciple, and kind of gives the base of teaching. And then the second, where most of the interesting stuff is, which was interesting for my seminar, is in this it's called Ananda Valley, is the second part, and the third is, I think, it's Brahman Valley. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he takes the Taittiriya Upanishad to establish Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead, because there it said, Brahma Puja Pratishta. That the Pratishta, meaning the base of everything, is the Brahman, which is, according to Vaishnava understanding, also in the Upanishad, is Krishna. And then also quoting Raso Vaisa, that this Brahman is, in essence, rasa. This is a very important verse, a very important phrase. It's not a phrase, actually it's three words from one long verse in this book, Raso Vaisa. Prabhupada quotes this very often, and this is very important because it's said that the Brahman, the absolute truth, is rasa. And this word rasa is very important for our theology. It's like one of our most important words, more or less. Like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right? You have the whole Krishna consciousness is centered about rasa, and then the whole rasa theology. Yeah. So this is actually our purpose of life. Yeah. This is actually rasa. What means rasa? It means actually taste. More or less, it's just from the scripture, it means taste. Yeah. Rasam apsu kaunteya, it said, Krishna is the taste in water. But we don't mean it in a material way. We mean it, actually, in one sense, there is no material rasa anyways. Rasa means taste. It means also, in that sense, conscious experience. It's like experience, because you can only have taste when there's consciousness. So meaning there's only experience is only possible through consciousness. So the whole purpose of existence is experience, a rasic experience, something what tastes good. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad, that's the reason why it's said you have different kinds of rasas. You have it on the prana level, on the anam level. Food is your rasa, is your purpose, is your main interest of existence, of experience. Then pranamaya means like more or less just that you exist as an individual. A living entity which is absolutely on the level of anamaya does not even understand himself, herself, itself. Actually, these are the animals. Because the animal has very little understanding of itself. Interesting, in English you even say it to an animal, it, right? In German we are not so impersonal. You call an animal not it. It means eine Sache, a thing, which is not alive actually. In English you call animals it. It probably comes still from some Christian era where they were considering animals as not really having a soul. Because formerly, I think, or still, the Christians don't believe that the animal has a soul. I think they changed this with the women, because women, I heard, before had also no souls. Animals and women had no soul, right? But I think they had to submit to the modern trends. Okay, we give the women a soul, okay, but animals still don't. So anyway, it's interesting. They call animals it in German. You don't say it. But it's interesting that the animals, of course, they have very little understanding of themselves. Of course, they have some, but it's not so strong. There's not so much self-reflection, understanding their situation, position. They don't have these abilities. Yeah. So for them, for animals, really the purpose of life is food. Okay, then defending and procreation. Yeah, okay, then also there. But the main thing is food. It's the purpose of life. Everything turns around that. So this is pure anamaya level of consciousness. Yeah. So on the pranamaya level, there's more understanding also of yourself. You understand your body, right? This is a bodily kind of a bodily consciousness, pranamaya. And then you have manamaya. Manamaya means manas, the mind. There are some other aspect of existence, of being conscious, of having a purpose, comes in the picture. It's your mind and your feelings, because mind and feelings are connected, right? And also feelings are there. There's experience, more conscious experience of that. And this is more or less what a materialist has, in one sense. More or less, this is what even some philosophy is not much further. It's not much further than on manamaya level, actually, because the next level is vijnanamaya, and vijnana is transcendental. There's already understanding of the soul and the difference between myself and matter. And modern philosophy does not have that most of the time. So in that sense, philosophy, as highly as it is praised, even the greatest names in the history of philosophy are not above the level of manamaya. There are some philosophers who have some tinges of transcendence or some speculation about transcendence, but it's not very elaborate. And actually vijnanamaya is not only philosophy about transcendence, it's actually experience of transcendence. It's not only I believe I'm the soul, it's actually I experience myself as a soul. So actually a philosophy which is teaching you are not the body or the soul, but you don't have experience of the soul, in that sense it's still philosophy, it's on manamaya platform. Vijnanamaya means, Chinese negative, because vijnanamaya means because it means experience, as I said, rasa, and it's a conscious experience. So on the vijnanamaya level of consciousness, of existence, you experience yourself as a soul. So only philosophy about the soul is manamaya. It's just a speculation about the soul. So this is what it says in this Upanishad, and then it says the highest is then Anandamaya. Anandamaya. The platform of bliss. And there is also where Prabhupada and the Acharyas explain, this is only possible on the personal level. Real Ananda is only possible on the level of when there's personality included, which brings in the whole, of course, the Vaishnava understanding. So this is not so elaborately explained by Vishwanatha in the Madhurya Kadambini. He just quotes this Brahmaputra Pratishta because someone who is versed in Vedic knowledge, he knows that. Right? It's very often that the acharyas, they don't quote the whole verse, they just quote one line, 1, 2, 3 words, because when you read it, you know it. Like before I was just mentioning Pratyaksha Anumana, considering I don't have to explain the whole concepts now because you know that. Right? So depending to which level of devotees you speak. I heard a lecture once by, what's his name? This one devotee who he was in Oxford? No, where was he? What's his name? This devotee, scientist, scholar, youngest professor in history. Huh? Yeah, Radhikaraman, yeah? Right. Dr. Gupta, is his name. Dr. Gupta was, yeah. And he was studying for his master thesis or doctoral work or something, the Satsandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. And he realized how intelligent Jiva Goswami was, because he was quoting left and right from the most far out scripture, but not only scripture, also from commentaries of scriptures, of like a lot of Shankara and things like this, because to refute Mayavad philosophy. And there he also saw it, that he was quoting just like a couple of words. And if you don't know that, you have no clue, but someone who is very knowledgeable, he just reads, he knows, this is this Acharya saying in this Shastra, this Acharya saying in this Shastra, right? So he saw the genius also and the scholarship of Jiva Goswami, who was quoting from all kinds of far out places. So in general, this is interesting. Just as a side note, anyway, it doesn't matter, but because I'm reading this Madhurya Kadambini and I try to get as many versions as possible, and I don't say any names, but I have like 2 versions of 2 different devotees from 2 different lines, you can also say. And it's interesting, and I heard that before, that this, I cannot say the name, I don't want to say the name, that this one devotee is more or less copying this other devotee. More or less. And when I read this now, and I just looked over it a little bit, but it's true, and I was a little bit shocked how blunt. I know I have to look more into detail, but how blunt he was, more or less seeing because there's a long commentary from this one devotee to Madhurya Kadambini, which is interesting to see more the details. And I wanted to look actually more at this devotee because he's closer to us, so to say. But then when I looked, I said, really, he's really kind of taking everything what this devotee says and takes it in his commentary without even saying that he took it from him. Which I found interesting. Anyway, I have to look more into detail how far it goes, but back to the topic of Krishna Lila. Krishna Lila. So anyway, because Brahmaputra Pratishta means he's the base of everything, and then he takes Bhagavad Gita and concludes the whole thing where Krishna says then Brahmano hi pratishtaham in the 14th chapter, where Krishna says, I am the base of the Brahman. So when Brahman is the base of everything, Krishna says, I am the base of Brahman, Krishna is the base of everything. And then in conclusion, Raso Vaisa, Krishna as being the base, in essence, is Rasa. And so this is when the base of everything, the supreme absolute truth is Krishna, and he's Rasa, so Rasa is very important. So so this means Bhagavan is the supreme absolute truth in that sense, right? He's the immovable mover, as Aristotle said. And as we also say, right? Where do we say the same? Aristotle, he concluded, he said, God must be there, because if God is not there, you have an infinite regress. Infinite regress means you will always ask why. You establish one thing, But then you ask, why that thing? Okay, that thing has a cause. So we go back to the cause. We understand, okay, what's before that? What's the reason? Okay. But then you understand this thing and you ask, why? Why that thing? Okay, this is the reason. And you go back into eternal. And it's called infinite regress. So you will never come to an answer because you will always have to ask why. Like small children, you ask why? They want to know the reason. And they drive the parents mad because the parents don't know anything. But if some parents know something, then they will not be mad. They will be very happy that my child is so inquisitive. And you can give him satisfying answers. Depends. Depends how logically this child thinks. At which time of the day the parents want to go into philosophy. Yeah. So, and this is why Aristotle said there must be an immovable mover, the one who is not moved by anything, who has no cause. So where do we have the same conclusion, Shastric conclusion? Very simple.
Something that is self-evident.
Yeah, but where do we have the same concept, actually almost with the same words, the immovable mover?
Actually, the Bhagavatam.
Yeah, more concise. Yeah, it's in the Brahma Samhita. Right in the beginning of Brahma Samhita. Sarva Karanam. Is this the Ursache aller Ursachen. And Anadir Adir Govinda. Actually, this is what I mean. Anadir Adir. The Anfanglose Anfang, the beginningless beginning. It's the same concept like with Aristotle. The beginningless beginning means the immovable mover. Okay. So the Bhagavatam is this text which establishes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this is philosophy. And devotees are actually Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Here we also Rasso Vaisa, Rasika. The devotees are Rasika. Rasika means the one who churned this taste about Krishna, and that you don't do with philosophy so much. This you do with Leela. This is only, a devotee can only be a real Rasika devotee if he's completely convinced about Krishna being the Absolute and all that. If there's no doubt anymore, he can enter into Leela. Without that, you cannot. Then you always will see the Leela as something material. And then there is a contamination, and the Leela, the experience, so to say, of the rasa of Leela will not work. So devotees are very high philosophers. Actually, rasa transcends philosophy, leaves philosophy way behind. It's not interesting anymore. And this also when there are some seemingly contradictions or, in the Leela, the devotee doesn't take it serious. Only because I don't understand. He's completely interested in the rasic experience of Krishna. So in that sense, the Bhagavatam is not a philosophical book. It's not a philosophical book. Doesn't want to be, doesn't has to be, should not be. It's a book for Rasika devotees. Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. It's the beginning of Bhagavatam. So, and what is it? It is about all the information about the personality of Godhead. And here we hear about His form and His attributes, His ornaments. Yeah, and He's very amazing. If you who would have ever imagined the supreme absolute truth, the God, look like that, doing like that? Nobody. This is very amazing. So it said first here that He has yellow cloth. Interesting, is yellow cloth. Why yellow? Because He likes yellow. Who knows why? You cannot ask the question why. As we said, He's the immovable mover. There's no reason. There's no reason for Him being anything, having anything, liking anything. Because He is the beginning of everything. This comes just out of His own existence. Right? We cannot ask the question, why does He have yellow cloth? And there cannot be an answer to that. And we should be very satisfied and amazed by that fact. So, He has a yellow cloth. He is having a girdle. A girdle is a Gürtel, huh? Or was this a girdle? Yeah. Kanchya. A girdle. He has a girdle. And covering his large hips. And he wore a garland of fresh flowers, which was distinguished by humming bees. Every time there is a garland, there are the bees. And he had bracelets. He has nice bracelets. This is a bracelet, huh? This is called bracelet, right? This is a bracelet. I think so. Is this also a bracelet? Something like it. So very nicely decorated. And this I always like very much. His hands were resting on the shoulder of Garuda. You know, like a maybe like that. So, anyways, his hand was resting on Garuda, and in the other hand, actually, he has 4 hands. Right, this is Vishnu. He had a lotus flower, and he twirled it. Right, twirl means like this. So really cool. Really cool. He enters the scene. You know, this is a real drama in the heaven, right? A heavenly drama. They are fighting. They are angry. Okay, probably now they are a little bit humble and they excuse themselves, but still, it's a quite intense atmosphere. A quarrel between the sages, the Kumaras, and the doorkeepers. They're like angry at each other, and then suddenly Vishnu comes in like really cool and chilled. What's going on here? And immediately calms the whole situation, right? Immediately calm. Everyone is whoa, so happy to see him. And he's resting his hand on Garuda. So Garuda is also there. Garuda is also really nice. The son of Vinata. Vinata is his mother, as far as I remember. And really relaxed, twirling a lotus flower. Yeah. And calming everyone down, and solving the whole situation. There's another scene in the Bhagavatam in the 4th canto where Vishnu comes in with Garuda and resting his arm on Garuda's with Dhruva Maharaj. Right, when Dhruva was meditating about Vishnu. And he was perfect in his meditation. When you read in the Bhagavatam very often, in the 2nd canto and in the 3rd canto, there's description of the personality of Godhead, how he looks, and it's always in regard to the super soul. In the 2nd and 3rd canto, it's in regard to the super soul. And there's like here a detailed explanation how he looks. This for the yogi to meditate. For this yogi, he will meditate, and he meditates on this about this description. And when this meditation is perfect, he gets darshan of the Lord in his heart. He sees the Lord in his heart, and this is like the perfection of meditation. I think also Narada Muni had something similar, wasn't it? Also, he was also meditating. He was seeing the super soul in his heart, the 1st canto, right? So then he sees, and Dhruva Maharaj also, 6 months, he made intense austerities, and then it was perfect, and he saw the super soul in his heart. And this is perfection, meaning you don't need anything else anymore. And he was just beholding this transcendental personality and was in ecstasy. He was just looking. It's interesting, just looking at the Lord in this meditation, right? He was closed eyes. He just saw him in his, heart, mind, wherever, in this internal vision. And he was just looking at the Lord and konnte sich nicht satt sehen. In German, you can say. Man kann sich nicht satt sehen. It means you cannot... Satisfy. Yeah, what means being sat in English? I'm filled, full. You cannot... Satiated, yeah, so in German it's satt. Yeah, and you cannot look enough at something. That means like that. Normally, it's very difficult to look at something or someone a long time. It will be boring. Finally, it will be boring, isn't it? How can you look at something for 100 years? I don't know. Very nice microphone, or maybe it is not so attractive, but yeah.
Don't tell your wife.
Yeah, but still, everything is material. Everything will go away. What to do? So, but with the Lord, it's perfect. And he was watching the Lord, and everything was perfect. He was in bliss. So Dhruva was in this state of samadhi, right? Samadhi. It's a perfection in Ashtanga Yoga. It's meaning when you reach the level of meditation where you are in a perfect situation, consciousness, where there is nothing to want, nothing to there's no duality anymore. There's no urge anymore. You are in an eternally perfect, situation, consciousness, however you call it. And this is our understanding of it when you have darshan of the Lord in this yogic process. And it was like this, and he was perfectly satisfied, meditating with the Lord, and then suddenly, boom! From 1 second to the other, and 1 moment to the other, he was gone. Imagine, you're in this perfect thing, and you're like, wow, it's so nice, and he looks so beautiful. And just seeing the Lord is perfect. He was not even talking to him, or, we want Leela, right? We want exchange, or finally be with Krishna and talk with him, interact with him and serve him. Yes, but just looking at the Lord is perfect. Actually, just hearing the name should be perfect. It's interesting that we get bored by chanting Hare Krishna. It's interesting that we are, finally did my rounds, right? Why? Because we don't have experience of the truth of the holy name. And that's the reason why pure devotee can chant, because it's never bored by the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna. It's like a continuous, experience of rasa, spiritual rasa. As Prabhupada once said, I heard, right? I never read that, but there's a story. I always say it's a story. Who knows if it happened, how it happened. Sometimes you hear a story from this person, and they're a little bit different, sometimes very different. So who knows how it really was. But then Prabhupada chanted his rounds, was finished, put the bead back on his table and said, and now I can do any damn thing I like. We hear the story, right? And now I can do any damn thing I like, just in reflection of his devotees who were probably thinking like this. It's not that Prabhupada will think like that. Showing it shockingly how much disregard we have for the holy name. So Dhruva Maharaj, suddenly the meditation broke, Vishnu was gone, and he was of course shocked. He was, where is he? Where is he? And he opened his eyes, and suddenly was standing right in front of him, in person. Whoa! Right, even more cool. And how was he standing there? He was there with Garuda again. And Garuda was also standing there.
And he had a lily in his hand, I think.
Yeah, it's true. This situation. Was it there or with Kapila? No, it was Kardama Muni. No, it was with Kardama Muni. Always when we read, it's interesting that when Kardama Muni has darshan of the Lord, when Vishnu was standing on Garuda, as far as I remember, on Garuda, and they were like in mid-air. That's also really cool. Kardama Muni made his intense austerities meditation, and then as a culmination, also Vishnu appeared and was standing there in mid-air in this, what was Bindu Sarovara, I think it was Bindu Sarovara, and he was meditating. And then Vishnu. And there, Vishnu, it said he had a lily. Yeah, it's a lily, not a lotus. But with Dhruva, it was a lotus also. And then, how was he standing? He was leaning on Garuda, and it said, he was not touching the ground. He was also floating a bit, hovering on, and to balance himself, he was holding on Garuda. That's said in the Bhagavatam. He was to balance himself. Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So here now, Vishnu enters that scene, calms everyone down. Everyone is amazed. And in the next verse I see here, no, this comes later then, just as a little, how to say, schon mal vorzugreifen. This is one of them. Actually, this pastime, in a couple of verses later, it will have a very important, here in verse 43, philosophical moral. When the Kumaras will smell then the tulsi leaves on the feet of Vishnu, they will become pure devotees. They will become bhaktas. So before they were actually Brahmavadis. They were not Mayavadis, they were Brahmavadis. And this pastime and the fact of Shukadev Goswami becoming a devotee, especially about Shukadev Goswami, is a very important philosophical point for us, which is so important that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining this verse, this Atmaram verse, Atmaranascha, what is this? Atmaranascha munayo nikranti api urukrame. How is this word coming? Yeah. This verse, Atmaram verse, was explaining to, I think 3 times, right? One with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, one with Sanatana Goswami, I think he asked him, and Prakashananda Saraswati also. Because this verse says that the Atmaramas, those who are perfectly satisfied within themselves, like those who are explained, who are in Samadhi, they will be attracted to Krishna. More or less, this is what it says. So the Atmarama will become a devotee. How can it be? Because their experience of Krishna, their rasa of Krishna, of his personality is way higher and satisfying than the impersonal, right, experience. So, and Prabhupada always said it never happened in history that a devotee became a Mayavadi, but it often happens that a Mayavadi or impersonalist becomes a devotee. So that will come in a couple of verses also. This statement or this topic will come up. Yeah. Okay, I will not talk about the Atmaram verse now, but this is a very, very interesting episode also with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, very interesting. Okay, I think it's okay for today. I wanted to talk more about other topics, but it's always like that. What can you do? Carry it here and there. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Anything Wenn ihr mehr wissen wollt über die transzendentale Wissenschaft des Krishna-Bewusstseins, dann kann ich euch den Bhakti Club empfehlen. Wir haben nun eine neue Plattform, auf der ich exklusive Inhalte anbiete, wie Videos und Kurse und eine digitale Sadhu Sangha. Geht einfach auf www.bhakti-club.de und registriert euch dort. Dann könnt ihr Einlass bekommen in eine spirituelle, digitale Welt. Ich freue mich auf eure Gemeinschaft. Hare Krishna.